And now it's time to get our first speakers up on stage, which is a surprise. There is one speaker first that I never managed to have on stage, is Xavier Niel, who is the founder and CEO of Free, and you know that mobile, and not only mobile, but telco operator, that Xavier has been so revolutionary in France and creating the box as well that is so popular and everybody kind of followed. And we also have Tony Fadell of Nest, but first we'd like to show you a quick video. Fadell, Xavier Niel, welcome. Tony, Xavier, please have a seat. Xavier, you changed job today.
Yeah.
You're asking the questions. I never managed to ask you questions, but in this case, it's interesting to see that you accepted to ask Tony questions.
Yeah, but I'm so pleased to welcome here today my friend Tony Fadell.
So Xavier, I will just, I think go away and today and let you do my whole job for the day, if you don't mind. Can you introduce Tony?
No, thank you.
Can you introduce Tony?
Yeah, of course. I met Tony when he was working at Apple a few years ago, and I was immediately impressed and fascinated by what goes into one's mind to invent the iPod on the 18th generation of iPod and the iPhone, the revolution of this century.
Tony invented the iPod and the iPhone.
It's only that. It's only that.
That's it.
And today we are going to talk about his new baby, Nest, that we've seen. For those in the audience who aren't familiar with Nest, Tony, could you explain what it is?
Sure. Really quickly, Nest, thermostats, does anyone care? Really, we just walk past them every day. We think they're nothing. They're just a light switch on the wall. But in fact, thermostats control 50 to 60% of your energy consumption in your home, and that's basically worldwide. And in the US, there are 250 million thermostats in residences and light commercial buildings. 10 million are sold a year. And if you think about that, we struggle all day long to make all kinds of products, and people make video games, but video game systems are much lower than 10 million units a year in the US. The thermostat market is larger than stoves, refrigerators, dishwashers, lots of products that you can buy and that you care about. Thermostats were overlooked, and they're such an energy consumer that no one has actually innovated them in over 30 or 40 years. So for me, when I saw this and I was building my home and designing it, I found this problem, and I said I had to do something about it. I had to go and think about reinventing it. And I thought about the business, I thought about the product, and that's where Nest came from. It's just those parameters.
Yeah. You invented the iPod. How do you go from the iPod to a thermostat?
Well, first, the iPod was a labor of love. I loved music. I used to DJ. Yeah. Not anything famous, but DJ, bars and weddings and those things. And I'd always have to lug all those CDs around, and it was so frustrating. And so I started from how can I take all my music with me so I can listen to it, and through that, that's where we got to the iPod, and I had already learned how to build consumer electronics, but I didn't know how to do music. There you go. And then the next thing was really, taking all of that learnings of how to make consumer electronics high volume, create amazing experiences. At Apple, Steve taught us that every single consumer touch point, it was incredibly powerful, not just the product usage, but the unboxing, the selling, the customer support, the retail experience. All of these things were absolutely central to how to make a great product. And so taking the consumer product design, taking the frustration of a product that, that you have and being curious about it, combining it with a product experience, all of those things then flowed from our experiences there into the Nest.
Nest was founded in May 2010?
May 2010 was our...
But you were in stealth mode until October 2011. Why did you choose to operate underground? And how did you manage to do it?
Yeah. So
it's Apple style?
It's very Apple style. But in a lot of ways, if you think about it, we're... a lot of startup companies love to come out, and they love to tell everyone about what they're going to work on, and what's their key competitive advantages, and that they raised this much money, and they raised all these things. I think that runs counter to the way you build a startup. A startup is about being fast, stealthy, and hitting a market when you're ready to sell it, right when people are ready to buy it. If you start 2 years early, and you start announcing this and that and all these things, by the time it actually ships, people go, finally, it shipped. We've been hearing about it for 2 years. It makes no sense, right? And so why not continue to make it special? Keep it special, keep it in-house, make sure you're working on the right things, because things change over time. Especially when we worked on this for 1.5 years before we shipped it, things change. So we want to make sure we build up all this around our team. A lot of how can I say, people are expecting a cool thing. They don't know anything. So that secrecy makes people more excited when it comes out. And especially when it comes to a thermostat, you got to make people excited. And frankly, luckily we did that.
How does Nest take advantage of the Internet of Things?
Well, the Internet of Things to me is, people think of, oh, well, there's this Internet of all kinds of crazy devices that are going to talk to each other. And I think at one day it's going to be like that. But the Internet of Things just really means products, interesting products all around you that may be connected to the Internet. And you may have either machine-to-machine connections or person-to-machine connections around the world. And so I think we will have an Internet of Things, many different things talking to each other. But if we think about it, we had computers in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. We didn't talk between our computers for about 30 or 40 years till they could all interconnect. And you made a lot of that happen. But I think for machines to connect and make sure that people don't have to be involved and it really works, I think it's going to take some time. So this is the first step. Give it 5 or 8 years, and then you'll start to see machines talking, and then it'll be commonplace, maybe in 10 years or so from now.
And how have you used data to improve Nest over time?
So that's one great thing about machines, being connected. We're able to get all kinds of amazing data from the product about how you use it, about the weather that's occupancy. We can see all kinds of different factors in the Nest. Nest has many different sensors. We have 5 different sensors built into it to do what you saw in the video. But what was interesting, like one of our features is called Auto Away. And what that is a feature that when you're not home, you literally, the product literally will go into an energy savings mode because sometimes you're much too busy to turn down the thermostat when you go away. So when we initially brought out Nest, we were very conservative. We were very concerned that people would experience auto away when they're home because maybe they didn't walk. You have to walk in front of the thermostat to get it to know that you're there. So we waited 2 or 3 hours before we went into auto away because we just want to make sure that it wasn't cooling it down when you're home. Over a year's worth of data and many, many customers in many different countries, we were able to see a pattern that emerged that during weekdays in certain types of families, when you left the house and we didn't see you after 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning, we knew immediately, go into AutoWay very, very quickly. And so that we could save, and in many cases we're saving 2 or 3 hours more of energy per day because of this new data that we were able to receive from all of these units. So each day is almost kind of like running a field test, and a lot of websites know that, right? They do A/B testing all the time. But then when you have a piece of hardware and you have real, true customer feedback with sensors about behaviors, then we can go to a whole new level of learning. And this is the wonderful thing about what's coming from the Internet of Things, and hopefully see a lot of those things here today and tomorrow at LeWeb.
This is the second version?
This is the second version, yes.
Sorry.
We did the first version, and the first version and the second version are very, very similar. The product design is slightly different, but all the software, all the features are very, very similar between the two products. The only difference is that for our customers in the US and Canada, they were complaining. And actually, it wasn't customers that were complaining about the product use, they were complaining it didn't work in their house. And so what we did was we went back and learned a lot more, figured out how to make it work in more homes, and so we came out the second generation to address those concerns.
You've been mostly focused on consumers and homeowners. To date, what growth opportunities exist for Nest?
Well, first, we are a B2C business. Yeah. We are only consumer business.
Amazon?
Yeah, exactly. Today we're at Amazon, we're at Lowe's, Best Buy, you know, do-it-yourself stores. Amazon. We're on Apple. We're on Apple.com. So we're taking a do-it-yourself project.
Apple.com?
Apple.com.
You had no connections there. I don't.
No.
You don't know them.
I don't know how you made a deal like this happen.
But yeah, so it's wonderful to be an Apple. But literally, it's the first product that was really that you would see at an Apple in an Apple sales online sales. And also at a bricolage or a do-it-yourself, like how many products are like that. So we hope many of you in the audience are also going to have that ability to have products that actually range a wide range of audiences. It's not just tech. And so it's very consumer. But where's the growth? Where do we see next opportunities? The first thing is that because these are connected, we're only selling in 2 countries, you know, Amazon in US, Amazon in Canada. Actually, today we announced, or yesterday we announced, we opened up 500 different retail shops in Canada, working with the retailers there for Nest. But when we saw these products coming online, we started to notice something interesting. We have this big map, right? And we start seeing Nest popping up. They started popping up in 63 other countries where we didn't ship. We didn't export, we didn't internationally ship. How did you get 63 other countries? We're in Siberia, we're in Saudi Arabia, we're in Estonia. We're like, how did this happen, right? And it's a wonderful thing when you can see a connected device go up. So we just started asking questions, and we have many, many customers all around. And so we're trying to plan, and that's why I'm here for the trip, because number one, you invited me to be here. But number 2, now that we are here, we're talking to all kinds of people to bring Nest to Europe as fast as we possibly can.
Which country will you launch first?
If
I may, Xavier. You had another question?
No. My question is
international.
Yeah, Europe.
So
where do you come to Europe?
You're in France.
France, of course.
France. So absolutely, we want to launch in France, and we want to launch in UK as soon as we possibly can. So we're looking for partnerships, working with retailers, working with even installers and those things. Just like we created an installer network in the US, we're going to create those here as well. So all of those things are to come. We were busy shipping the second generation product, but now we're ready to take on Europe.
So you're going to open an office in France. Where is Fleur Pellerin, our Minister of Technology, coming tonight? I'm sure she would be pleased to help.
It would be great. Yes, we're looking. We're going to be opening offices. We're going to be hiring. We're going to be creating a startup within a startup here in the U.S. or in the EU.
That's in France.
France.
Maybe France.
Maybe France.
Do you have some extra office space?
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely.
So just that you know, I just tweeted if you guys have questions, we might, because we have some time left, Tony. Is
yeah,
that okay
let's go.
We'll do 2 things. I'll ask you questions.
Okay.
But since we have some time left, I'll get questions from Twitter. So just at Loicme, if you don't mind. And we'll get a few from the room, if you don't mind, Tony, as well.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
And so tell me about entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship. You should be talking to him about entrepreneurship.
On the difference
Xavier, tell me about entrepreneurship.
No. On the difference between the US and Europe, you work in Europe.
I worked for Philips Electronics back in the 90s, so very different time than now. But entrepreneurship, what would happen, you could see the difference between kind of a startup and Apple and Philips. At a startup, we work incredibly hard. We have minimal resources. We create what we can, and we bootstrap ourselves into success. At Philips was a very large company. I did a startup within a large company there. And so we had a small startup in California, and Philips was funding us to create the first generation of Windows CE devices back in 95, 96. And so they would give us the money, and they were very much like VCs, and so we would just do the thing like a Silicon Valley startup. But then every time I would come back to headquarters, it was in Eindhoven at the time, you would be like, oh, something's not quite right. Let's send a team from Europe to come in and fix whatever's going on. And we're like, no, we'll fix it. No, you need our help. And so there were all of these kinds of interesting interactions in a large company that I wasn't accustomed to. But what was really telling to me, and I had a great experience at Philips, learned a lot. But what was really telling to me was comparing Apple to Philips. Because when I joined Apple, I was like, oh, is this going to be Philips all over again? Is this going to be a big company that would interject when they didn't necessarily need to be? And what was an interesting comparison, I know it's changed a lot now. Frans van Houten's doing a great job with Philips. But back in the day, in 95, 96, Philips had the idea that we'll start lots of projects, but we might not ship them all. And only maybe, if you're lucky, 1 out of every 10 products that they started would actually ship. 1 out of 10. Can you imagine what that felt like to be on those teams when you didn't know whether or not you're going to work hard for 6 months, a year, 2 years on something, and just before it's going to launch, they kill it? How many people are going to be passionate about everything they do the second or third time in a large company if it's always going to be killed? The project's going to be killed. Conversely, when you go to a company like Apple, a large company, it actually works like a startup. 99% of everything that is started ships. Why? Because we treat the resources as they're highly constrained. Each person on that team has to be highly valued, and they have to feel a pride that what they're working on every day is going to make it to the market to ship so that you can put something on your resume. Could you imagine being at a large company and for 10 years or 8 years, you're there and I worked on this project, but none of them ever shipped? People would be like, well, you had a wasted decade. Whereas when you're at a small company, a startup, or Apple, it was like, I shipped this product and you saw this marketing and your parents touched it or you touched it. Those are the kind of powerful things that are very, very different from a startup, from a large company. And so I hope that even if the large companies in the audience are hearing this, you're much more like a startup than the old day corporations.
Now we're going to have you for 2 hours because I have so many questions coming. But so first, I'll take one from the room. So please raise your hand and someone will find you. In between, there is one from Chris Hoyer here. Sorry for my pronunciation, Chris, for your name. But who's asking about international expansion. And I think there is a really good debate here on, you saw Groupon, right? Groupon was the absolute star of like last year or 2 years and like changing the world. And it's not going as well anymore, apparently. So when do you think a startup needs to go international? There was a story about that, saying too early. I remember Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, telling me, no, we'll not go international. It took like 5, 6 years before going international. What's your...
So our point of view is take it slow. I've talked to a bunch of different entrepreneurs. I have friends who've done similar things, and they've all kind of rushed to Europe. And they come to Europe very quickly, and then they go, well, we didn't really understand, and they wasted a lot of time and money and resources, and they have to restart. So I'm trying to talk to them and learn a lot of lessons. But what you can do, and what we found already through like what's happening with Nest, is there is a small set of people who are taking our devices and learning about them and using them. So we're actually working and crowdsourcing those customers because they're so passionate about Nest and bringing it to their country. We're sending out questions and interacting with them. Where would you buy Nest? What do you think Nest should cost? What was not quite right about Nest in your country? And so it's helping us to better refine the product.
Well, what's your advice for entrepreneurs? To go early or to go slow?
To be methodical. To be utterly methodical. Don't just rush over here, think you can come and you're going to dominate just like you did where you were.
Is there a question? Yes, in the center here. I don't know if we have a microphone. That's going to be handy. Okay, it's coming.
Be very methodical. Be very methodical. Think about your steps. Think about your true differentiation. Not every country is exactly the same. Every country is different. Here you have to treat them, and they're small compared to the US market. And so you have to be very diligent. You can use web, like if it's a hardware company, you can use the web and you can use like set up one shop and sell online. But to really truly go into retail or do marketing or those kinds of things, those are very heavyweight. And you need partnerships. You need to have good friends who could help get you started, just like you did wherever your home country is.
Could you just introduce yourself and ask your question to Tony? Or to Xavier, he loves questions as well.
Yes, Xavier, please, Xavier. He's the star here.
No.
Hello. Actually, it's more a question for Tony. I work for the Swedish weather forecast, and I was wondering if Nest would be connected with weather forecasts.
Nest today is connected to multiple services around the world for getting weather forecasts, and much of the weather data we pull in actually affects the way our algorithms work. So there are certain times when there's things we have time to temperature and true radiant and all kinds of different features that are totally integrate the weather from all of these different services to help us do better prediction on when we should turn on your heating or your cooling. So we make sure you're comfortable, or we make sure you're the most energy efficient, depending on the weather.
I'll take one. Thank you very much. I'll take one from the internet. Romain de Giselle is asking what kind of organization is set up to develop such a device in terms of conception and design. I think that's a really good one because this is so amazing in terms of design. So what's your advice? How do you design something like this? Where do you start?
Where do you start? First, if you haven't ever done it before, I recommend go spend a year and work with your heroes who do it. That's the first thing. Learn from others because it's very hard because there's so many different pieces of the puzzle. It's not just a brilliant UI with some back end and 10 people. This really took a team of 70 to 80 people who were trained, who worked together in the past, with manufacturers we worked with in the past. It's not as easy as it looks to create a Kickstarter project. And it's not as easy as it looks to make a...
Tell me about this, because that's another good question. The Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and so many European ones as well. Right. Movement, where you go, and we have Lockitron later at LeWeb raising $2 million on their website, actually, not even using those sites. How do you look at that? And I ordered a Pebble Watch. They were here at LeWeb London. I ordered 4 of them, and there's delay, right? So it looks like it's more like entrepreneurs are learning that hardware is not easy.
Hardware is, there's a reason for that word, is in hardware. It's hard. It's so much easier to replicate electrons than it is to replicate atoms. It really is, because each atom is a work of art. Each thing, it's handmade, that ring that you see. And so when you look at something like Kickstarter, what is Kickstarter really, really great for? It's for entrepreneurs who want to create something like this. Yeah. So something like a thermostat, where you think it's a crazy idea, but you don't know if there's an audience for it. Luckily, given our team's reputation, we were able to go into VCs, and they know that we were able to build this before.
How much did you raise?
We're not talking about that.
But how much did you raise?
We're not talking about that.
Xavier, how much did you raise?
I don't know.
Did you invest?
No, you don't want.
Oh, no.
3 years ago, 3 years ago, he said no.
Because you invested, what, 500 startups?
A little bit more, I think.
More? How many?
For you, we'll make an extra.
Yeah.
Xavier, how many startups did you invest in?
I think 800, something like that.
800?
Yeah.
800.
Xavier does 2 investments a week or something.
It's fun.
You're a hero for Europe and France. But anyway, so you didn't let him invest. That's interesting.
No, he said, you can tell us what you said to me. He said, I don't want any friends.
I said, I want friends, but I just don't want friends to invest. In case there's a problem, I'd like to have a friend after, a good friend who's incredibly smart.
Also, if a company fails, you don't want the responsibility of...
Well, you know, you go to your friend, I'm sorry, I lost your money. It just doesn't feel right. You know,
yes, never happened to me. Do you have a question? Like, there is a hat there. Keep going, Tony.
So back on the Kickstarter thing. So the best thing about Kickstarter is that it can attract an audience, a large audience that say, I want this product. I absolutely want this product. And then you can go to professional funders. You can also have patrons, because Kickstarter folks are patrons of these projects. And you can put this together to get a really healthy contingency around you to create this object. But it's, to me, when the customer is the patron and the funder of this company, and you're buying a Pebble watch, I don't know how much it is, $199, $249. That money is to go for the product, all the production tooling, the paying of the individuals, whatever marketing's there done, the customer support. I know it's incredibly hard without, you know, to make this, with all those things, to make it an Apple-class product with all the service and support, with a lot of VC dollars, and charge a premium price for this to make any money. So it's really hard for me to see how these companies, without really big backing, are going to last in the long run.
So you're pretty negative on all the Kickstarter projects?
No, I'm very positive on Kickstarter to find the audience. I think there's lots of Kickstarter projects, books, and things that are easier to do, easier to produce, that absolutely are wonderful. The hardware things are difficult, and you have to look at how hard it is to produce them to see, and the prices they're charging for them, to see if they're really going to come to light. So if you like to be a patron and you want to fund somebody's hobby or some interesting project, absolutely. But don't always think you're going to be a customer that you're going to get those products.
I know. I ordered 5 of them. None of them arrived for now. But I'm happy I support the entrepreneurs.
Exactly, and supporting it's fine. It's when it goes to the mass public, and then the mass public demands that they have the product, and they don't receive it. Right. That's the bad thing. That's the unfortunate thing.
Can you introduce yourself?
Good morning, Kamlo Zakoni, leading the Belgian web community. So
I'll try to translate in English for you. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Loic. So during the video, we discovered that indeed Nest is there to replace the traditional thermostat. So my question is the following. Do you think that Nest is aimed at moving around the house to get personalized environment, or in the near future, we'll have more than one Nest at home, so that each people around the home, you, your wife, your children, will have their own Nest in different parts where they are living, getting personalized environment like we had today, personalized web? So
the way I think about it is, when we're first designing Nest, I understood the iPhone and the designing a home, I first understood that the iPhone and the iPad were coming, and I thought to myself, how does every product around us change when the central interface to your life is going to be in your hand or on your table at any time? How does every product change around you for the interface and the control and the status of it? But also, how do those products change if they're connected to a finite source of electrons instead of just an infinite source you plug into the wall, they come? So every product, control and status here, a finite source of electrons has to be very green. How do those products change? And so what I think is your personal home is going to come through these, not through many, many different devices all around your home. You don't need more. What you need are better devices that you have, but you don't necessarily need more. Here is where more comes from. More features, more convenience, more kinds of other things where you don't have to burden every product with every single feature. You put it here and you tailor it to the way you need. As we've seen, these are appliances. And the way you make them come to life and personalize them is by putting many, many apps, many, many different services on them, and then they become personalized. Your home is just a reflection of what you're going to put on here as well.
Do you think we'll have, what do you think about the Google Glass? Because you're showing this, but this is going to be in my pocket, right? And I keep, how about the glass? Do you think it's coming? Connected, like or in my eye?
I think it's coming, and it's already been, Google Glass is another evolution of some of the things they've been doing in the military and in certain things in manufacturing. So it's the next logical extent. I think that there are applications where it's absolutely very important for on-the-go kinds of things. I'm still getting used to, would somebody be, talking to me wearing it? So the jury's still out. But at the end of the day, Google Glasses is an accessory to your phone, so it's in your pocket. So you have to figure out great use cases where this is always in your pocket, so you would use this, or you would use this without that. So I think it's still very early to be able to...
Well, Nest is today.
Yeah, it's very different. It's, kind of, the way I think of Google Glasses is we had a General Magic device. You can go online and see it. But General Magic was about 20 years very early for the iPhone. It was a very early iPhone. Google Glasses may be the start. It may be the iPhone, or it may be just a little bit before that iPhone concept. I'm not quite sure. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
We're almost out of time, but I'd like to take the... Do you have a question?
Yeah, no, not a question. I want to say that to try this product is the best new product I've seen for years, really. It's very good. No, it's really, really, really good.
Very.
If they want to see it, I guess you'll be around.
Yeah, we'll be around. We'll have them. We have some people here with them.
Excellent.
And you can put your hands on them.
Can we Nest you or something on Twitter? I mean, or your team, just to maybe they'll want to see it.
Yeah,
Send you a tweet or
we'll have Kate tweet out and
send @Nest something.
Yes, @Nest, @Nest, exactly.
A question for both of you, Xavier. You get a question, and then we'll wrap up really quickly. What's your advice for thousands of entrepreneurs here and online starting their business? Like, give me just 1 or 2 points which you think are necessary to focus on.
Trust your gut. If it feels too easy, you're not trying hard enough. If you're not scared about at least 1 or 2 aspects of what you're trying to do, you're not trying hard enough, and therefore there will be competition. So it's okay to be uneasy, uncomfortable. Yeah. That's the way it is to be
I guess the reverse is right, that if you're scared, you should still try.
Exactly, absolutely try. Absolutely. Just as long as you have enough of the risks mitigated. Don't do something totally crazy, but enough of the risk mitigated. But there has to be risks if you're going to actually have reward.
Xavier?
Yeah, if you sleep in the night, there are a big problem, I think. You can't sleep if you set up a new company, and you have nothing to lose. You can try. You have to try.
Do you sleep at night?
Yes, now.
Now.
What's next for you? You've done your mobile operator. What's coming next?
A new version. We tried to set up a new version of our boxes, so to have a new one, I think, in 2 years. We work on that.
Always many projects.
Thank you.
But I agreed to not ask you questions, so that was 2 or 3 already.
Thank you.
Tony, anything to add?
I just want to say, I've had many inspirational figures who have just, I say, worked for my heroes. Steve was definitely one of my heroes, absolutely one of my heroes.
And you worked really closely.
This is another one. This is another one of my heroes, absolutely.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so
please.
much.
I think I mean absolutely Xavier is a lot of European Steve Jobs.
Unique,
yes.
Very unique.
Yes.
So, all right.
I'm very shy.
Yeah, well,
Thank
you said it. You said it. Xavier and Tony, this was amazing. Xavier, thank you so much for coming from so far away.
No.
And Tony from California. I know we'll be in touch, and I hope you come back. I know you love Paris.
Oh, my wife will be back if I'm not. But no, I will definitely be back, and thank you again for the invitation.
So we'll check in with you, and you can keep in touch with Tony and his team on @Nest. Thank you so much, Tony.
Great,
thank you
everyone. Thank you very much.